Hey everyone, I'm Lance Corporal Molly Hampton, and I'm here live at the Modern Day Marine Expo here at Marine Corps Base Quantico, Virginia. This is an incredible three-day event that showcases the latest technology and equipment designed to address the future of the Marine Corps. In a few minutes, you'll be hearing from the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Robert Neller, talk about the future of the force. Right now, we have Lieutenant Colonel Dan Schmidt, the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab's Features Directorate, to talk to us about the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab and a little bit about the technology here on display. Sir, could you fill us in a little?
Sure. The Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, we try to edge in the future. We do this by a strong study of the future operating environment. We take that and war game some concepts and ideas of how we might fight in that operating environment. We select technologies, a lot of surrogate technologies, things that don't exist yet that will assist us with that, and then we do live force experimentation to prove or disprove our theories. All of this is to get ahead of the curve of the future so we can maintain our warfighting edge.
So how do you see the Marine Corps in about 20 years?
Well, the Marine Corps in 20 years will remain an expeditionary force fighting as a MAGTF. We see trends in the world with urbanization along the coast, so we understand that the megacity and the urban environment is something we're focused on. We see manned-unmanned teaming in our future, but largely the Marine Corps is built on on our Marines themselves. So our principal focus is still the human element of the Marine and how we can enhance his and her performance.
Sir, so I know there's a lot of great technology here today, but can you tell us a little bit about what the Warfighting Lab has on display today?
Sure, we're looking at all the warfighting functions and how it can enable us. So you see some surrogate robots behind us where we can incorporate manned and unmanned teaming. Some of those robots have incorporated some autonomy, so we can take some of the decisions off the backs of the Marine and enhance his performance. And keep in mind, what you see behind us isn't what we're looking at fielding, it's to test our concepts of where robots may fit into our future, autonomy fits into our future. And we're also looking at concepts like foraging off the environment, where can we draw water and other logistics, lighten our footprint to increase our agility on the battlefield.
What do you think is the most promising piece of technology for the Marine Corps?
Really the most promising piece isn't a technology, it's the way we're approaching it. We know that with our force, innovation comes from within and comes from the bottom up. We have some very creative, very smart, very adept Marines within the force, and we want to harness and capture their ideas, and we want to take those good ideas and ride them all the way through our experimentation.
So Marines who have really good ideas, how can they get in contact with you guys and, potentially submit their idea?
We want to take all the good ideas. We've set up an innovation portal and an innovation challenge where we encourage Marines of all ranks, all backgrounds to say, hey, I have a great idea. And on the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab webpage, they can link to the portal. They can put that idea in there with descriptions. And we'll sort and play around with these ideas, and we'll take the ones that have great merit and we'll help the Marine carry them forward to fruition so we can test and experiment with it. We're not afraid to fail with these ideas. We know that we'll have many failures to come up with the good innovation ideas that'll keep our warfighting edge.
Well, thank you for your time, sir. You're going to hear from the Commandant of the Marine Corps to talk about the future of the force.
So my task here today is to talk about the Marine operational concept, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but first I'd just like to thank the Marine Corps League and all the folks that were here today have put on the Modern Day Marine. You know, many of us have been here many times, and it's always great to see all the gear and the cool stuff and think about the future, except a lot of that stuff is not the future, it's like tomorrow. So we know we need to modernize and to refurbish and recapitalize, and there's stuff in there that's going to help us do that. But at the same time, we need to look to the future. So I'd just like to thank all the Marine Corps League folks for doing what they do. And then just one aside before I do my task. So it's appropriate, it's raining today. Because somewhere out there by Lunga or some other training area, a bunch of lieutenants thinking this sucks. And that just makes me so happy. And I saw Sergeant Major Joel Hoole here. So reverse the tape to July 1976, Northern Training Area, 2nd Lieutenant Neller, Sergeant Hoole, 2nd Platoon, Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, day 9 of the Northern Training Area training exercise on this finger. And it's rained for 9 days. And we'd set up our hooch, and we were living on this finger where we were set up our base area, So there really wasn't a lot of flat ground, and it was all mud, and everybody's kind of pitching their poncho hooch on the side. And Sergeant Hoole, their mattresses were all crystallized. They didn't work for crap. So we're sleeping. It was warm. I mean, if you could stay dry. So we're sleeping on a poncho, and I learned very quickly. We each carried 3 ponchos because you had to have 3 poncho for the hooch, and then you had 2 to let you know. And you had 1 to lay on and another 1 to cover yourself with. So it's dark, and we get in there, and I'm like, I'm so tired. And I start taking my boots off, and Sergeant Hoole goes, "What are you doing, sir?" So I'm taking my boots off. He says, "No, you got to go check feet." "You got to what?" "You got to go check feet, Lieutenant." I said, "Sergeant Hoole, we told them all to take their boots off." Because, sir, they ain't going to take their boots off till you and I go check their feet. Okay. So we get up. It's pouring. I mean, it's just pouring like it only can rain in Okinawa. And we're walking around, and it was a very different Marine Corps back then. 2nd Platoon, Sergeant Bajelko, John Bajelko was with us. Squad leaders were Corporal Thomas, Sergeant Bacon, and Sergeant Douglas. Good men. I don't know if they'd make it today. And sure as heck, Sergeant Hoole said, "We go around, stick your feet out so I can see you've taken your boots and socks off." Half of the Marines hadn't taken their boots off, let alone their socks. So I'm like, wow, that's really crazy. Why wouldn't somebody take their boots? Well, because it's cold, or it's too lazy, or don't want to do it. But I just want to acknowledge that leadership lesson that guys, stick your hand up there, Sergeant Major. Hoorah. And taught me about how to be a leader. I won't tell them about the time Dirk Ali and I snuck you into the officers club in Yokosuka, but that's another story. So again, welcome to Modern Day Marine. I invite all the Marines to take the time to go talk to the vendors over there, look at the gear, get on it, climb on it, check it out, ask hard questions, and make them try to answer them. So let's get to the main topic. Several years ago, when General Gluck was the commander of Combat Development Command and General Amos was the commandant, we published a document called Expeditionary Force 21. And that was a logical sequel to From the Sea, Ship to Objective Maneuver, Maneuver from the Sea, all the things that Marines have done as part of our operational doctrine to help us develop capabilities, requirements, and talk about how we're going to fight. And that document was a good document, but it had been a couple years old, and we decided we wanted to take a new look at it. The Commandant and the Chief of Naval Operations had published Cooperative Strategy 21, which, if you haven't read it, and it's a really good document about how the Navy and the Marine Corps are going to operate. It is a naval document. There's a lot of Navy in it, but it's a naval document. I don't mean that disrespectfully. And we need to ensure that our Navy shipmates talk about naval. And just to give you, and I think we're in a good place, just to give you an idea, a small thing, but yesterday the CNO asked me to be in his birthday message to the Navy. I'm not sure I ever remember that happening. And he uses the word naval a lot. So we need to reciprocate with that. So we went back and we looked at EF-21 and we decided that we needed to focus more on how we're going to operate. So this document, and you can tell us if you think we figured it out or not, is about how we're going to operate in the future. And the capabilities and the capacities and the skill sets and the requirements that we think we're going to need to fight a future adversary. So are we trying to fix something? Are we broken? Just for the Marines in here, as an institution, and I've been doing this a while, we have a lot of strengths as an organization, but one of I think, it's a strength and a weakness is whenever anybody wants to question something or change something, the first word out of our mouth is, well, what's wrong with us? Are we no good? No, it has nothing to do with it. But we've been fighting a counterinsurgency stability fight other than OIF-1 since 2004. And we've trained, equipped, and organized the force to do counterinsurgency and fight an insurgent. An insurgent that was brave and courageous and gave us a handful. But that insurgent didn't have electronic warfare. That insurgent didn't have an air force. That insurgent didn't have effective indirect fire. That insurgent couldn't direction find our locations. That insurgent didn't have the ability to take down our networks or jam our comms. That insurgent didn't have armor formations that could maneuver across the battle space. That insurgent didn't have a sophisticated information operations plan to deceive not just our force, but the American people. And that's partly just because we trained to fight the mission that we had to do, and we did a great job. So I don't want anybody walking out of here saying the Commandant said, you know, we're all hosed up. We're not. The MAGTF is a solid concept, and how we organize that force as a Marine Air Ground Task Force, I think that's a solid concept. In fact, I think I see other formations both in the Western world and other places doing the same thing. You look at a Russian battalion task group, and it's a MAGTF-like organization. But what we're trying to fix is we're trying to fix ourselves so that in 10 years from now, the environment that we're going to face, we believe, is going to be different. It's going to be contested in the electromagnetic spectrum. It's going to be contested in space. It's going to be in a complex terrain, urban sprawl. It's going to be along the coast, dense population centers with slums, or, you know, we may be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be on an open desert where you can see just about anything you want to see and target anything you want to target, and that our comms are going to be 100 over 100. And that the network is going to be there, and that we'll have guaranteed air supremacy from day one. I may be wrong. Every time you try to anticipate what the future is going to be, usually you're wrong, but I think there's a certain accuracy in this if you just look at what's been happening around us. So that's what we're trying to do with the MOC. We're trying to make ourselves look at the formation, look at the training, look at the capabilities, look at the doctrine, and say, okay, we've got stuff that's applicable across the range of military operations, but if we're going to fight somebody that has this capability set, what do we need to do? Not a wholesale change. We just need to have enough of these things to be able to contest and have it not be a fair fight. Because my job as the Commandant, and the job of all these general officers sitting up here, and these colonels and these lieutenant colonels, is to ensure that Lance Corporal Jones doesn't have a fair fight. I don't want him to have a fair fight. So that's what the MOC is about, how we're going to fight and win in 2025. And it'll shape our actions. Now, maneuver warfare is part of this. Maneuver warfare, if you remember from the FRAGO that was issued in January, we're trying to reinvigorate the concepts of maneuver warfare, which is to find the enemy's weakness, their gaps, avoid their surfaces, and try to defeat the cohesion of the enemy. Now, you can do that by locating, closing with, and destroying the enemy, or you can do it in other ways. There's other ways in a combined arms fight to defeat your opponent. If you can destroy him, fine. But as Sun Tzu is quoted, paraphrased, the ultimate is to defeat the enemy without fighting. That's easy to say, it's hard to do. So we've got to be able to break stuff. We have to be able to close. But we have to be able to protect our network, and we have to be able to affect the battle space with fires that are not just rockets and artillery rounds and laser-guided bombs and JDAMs. Information provides effect. Electronic warfare provides effect. And for many of the more experienced Marines in here who grew up during the Cold War or even in Vietnam, you're going to go, hey, you guys are just going back to the future. Remember the days out of 29 Palms, the Radbin guys were out there, they were jamming the nets and you're switching and they never jammed the kind of fire nets because it was dangerous enough out there. But you couldn't talk on the tag net. I mean, you had to fight, and they made you work. And with all due respect to the Marines in here now that have been fighting with honor, courage, and commitment the last 15 years, if you walked in your ops center, whether it was platoon, company, battalion, or regiment, and you weren't 100 over 100 and have an ISR feed and TAC chat and MERC chat on multiple channels, you're like, well, how do you expect me to operate? I'm just telling you, I don't think it's going to be that way. And whether it is or not, you have to be prepared for when it's not. And we need to talk about that. But maneuver warfare is about the cognitive domain. And we've talked about it in the past about land, sea, and air, but now we have 5, maybe 6 domains. Land, sea, air, cyberspace, and I'd say information is a 6th domain. And it's all around us every day. All you have to do is watch the dialogue that's in the media about Syria. Because if somebody says it and nobody counters that narrative, it becomes what? The truth. If you want to believe that as the truth. So maneuver warfare through a combined arms approach to defeat the enemy, destroy them if necessary, but in a 5 or 6 domain fight. I don't think the fight's going to be linear. I don't think it's going to be sequential. I think it'll be kind of like General Krulak's 3-block war of humanitarian assistance, counterinsurgency, training partner nations, and I think there's a 4th block, and that's the public affairs officer, somebody over here, talking about what we're doing. Or other elements of information. And that's new to us. There's a lot of vignettes. We started the mock off with vignettes to try to give examples, and there was some reluctance on my part to do that because I think, quite frankly, we talk a lot about how we're going to do stuff, and I think that provides information to our potential adversaries. So I think we need to be concerned about how open we are. We want the young guys down here to know that we're paying attention and we're going to change and there's new gear, but there's a certain point where, yeah, that's enough. I'm not going to tell you any more about that. I mean, we'll talk amongst ourselves, but so we need to be careful with that. But this fight is going to be from the sea. If you look at the 4 threats that the Secretary of Defense has identified, the 4 nation-state threats, all of those provide opportunity for a maritime-based force coming from the sea, using the sea as maneuver space. Because they all have coastlines, they all have big coastlines, in fact, or they've even established outposts in the oceans of the world. So 4-block war, 6 domains, look at the force and adjust to get those capabilities. Now, the most important capability we have sits right down here in front. I mentioned those 3 squad leaders. They were good men. I don't know. I'll defer to Sergeant Major Houle. I don't know how they would fare today. They probably adjust. It wasn't their fault. They just didn't have the opportunities. You know, that was a Marine Corps of 50% high school grads. General Kennedy told me the other day we completed the fiscal year in recruiting 99.9% high school grads. And the highest tiering of our recruits we've ever had. our attrition across the force is at the lowest level ever, and we continue to raise the standard for physical fitness and other things. So we're getting good people. And so we need to challenge them. We need to expect more from these Marines down here, and I think they'll rise to that challenge. So that's what's in the mock. I'd ask you to take a look at it. We shortened it up a little bit because I just don't like long documents. It's long enough, and then there were no pictures, and for all my infantry friends, I put some pictures in there. It's not going to solve every problem. It's more to create discussion and facilitate all the testing and experimentation we're doing with Sea Dragon and 3.5 is our experimental unit, and the campaign of learning that General Walsh is doing. So if you're nervous about it, join the club. But I can tell you this, if it works, you'll get all the credit. If it's a stinker, it's on me. Okay, I own that. But the one thing we're not going to do is stay the same. We cannot, because the world is changing too fast, technology is too fast. I mean, like we were talking about, I'm watching on TV the other day, and there's a guy, GoPro, this guy makes quadcopters. So he's selling them. At the end of next year, my goal is every deployed Marine infantry squad has got their own quadcopter. They're like $1,000. And I'm not advocating for any particular manufacturer. But the technology, people that make that type of device, it's like iPhones. Every 6 months, there's another one. So it would be kind of silly, I think, to field the whole Marine Corps at one time, because in 6 months, there's going to be something better to buy, hopefully cheaper. And if we get General Dana's successful with his additive manufacturing and 3D printing, maybe we can just buy the design and 3D print our own. I'm not joking. I mean, we're going to be in 10 years, we'll be 3D printing chow. They're already printing food. And you didn't like the chow now. But seriously, just think about that. We won't buy a parts block, we'll just buy the tech package. And we'll print our own parts. I mean, I think there's exhibits here where we can 3D print right now, buildings, shelter, parts, plastic, steel. I mean, it's gonna disrupt everything that we know about supply, which I think is pretty cool. So that's what's in the mock. I'd ask you to read it. It focuses, there's a lot of tech in there, but at the end of the day, we know it's all about people. That's our center of gravity, the thing that we have to continue to protect, to get young men and women that want to wear this uniform, want the challenge of being Marines. And if we can continue to do that, the rest of the stuff will take care of itself. But if we don't get you to come in or stay, we can buy the best gear in the world and it won't matter. It will not matter. So I'd be willing to take a couple questions. General Regner said I should only take questions from uniformed Marines. That's pretty scary. So any Marines got a question for me about anything?
You clearly pointed to these active duty hard charges.
I don't want to put them on the spot.
These hard charges over here, so here's...
I already know these guys. I don't want to hear anything from them.
Thank you, Sergeant Major.
I'll take a question from Colonel Baker. He always has a question. Thank you, Matt.
Sir, you mentioned the fourth block, and I think you talked about a public affairs officer standing there. What are your thoughts about advising and retaining the security cooperation focus, maybe engagement as a warfighting function?
Okay, so truth in advertising, Colonel Baker in his last assignment was the commander of the Marine Corps Security Cooperation Group, who helped train advisors for the last 3 years, and it was a kind of it was compilation of 8 advisor training group that we used to have with folks out at 29 Palms. If you look at the national military strategy and you look at what's coming out and I'm not going to talk about the future national military strategy that we're working on with the chairman because it's classified. Clearly, there's 4 potential adversaries out there. We cannot do this by ourselves. So we have to have allies and partners that we need to be able to operate with and interoperate with. And then the best thing we can do across the world, and part of the national military strategy, is to build partner capacity around the world. So I think part of being a Marine, inherent in that, is being able to advise and teach, coach, and develop foreign military forces. And so will that ever be a battle space function like maneuver, fires, intelligence, logistics, force protection, and command and control? I don't know, but I think there's a place for that. There's a place for that. But right now we're focused more on the peer adversary, and to me it's built into the sticker price of buying Marines. We'll be able to do that, and that organization that you led will continue to be there to help train, just like they've helped train the Marines that are over in the Middle East right now, advising our partner security forces. Anybody else? Somebody in a uniform? Nobody down front? Okay, if in the back, sir, whoever that was. Anybody except Mike Janae. Mike Janae cannot ask me a question. Spike.
Thanks, sir. Great comments. I heard or read that you were going to be talking at AUSA next week in relation to the Army's new operating, or not necessarily new operating concept, but their recent work on their cross-domain strategies. And I wanted to ask, has the Marine Corps and the Army been in collaborating with regards to their operating concepts? And good. Do you see competition or collaboration? How do you see that going forward? Because obviously there's a resource part of this as well.
So when General Milley became the Chief of Staff of the Army, he and I had served together. You understand this. I mean, there's always going to be tension between the services because of resources. But I want a big, strong Army, and I want a big, strong Air Force, and I want a powerful Navy, and I want SOCOM to have what they need. And I think we have our place, and so I think it's a two-way street. So I talked to him about an organization. We used to have what was in the early, well, you remember, back in early 2000, we had something called the Army Marine Corps Board, where the Army and the Marine Corps would come together and look at common requirements and try to determine if we could homogenize our requirements to buy the same thing, like lightweight 5.5, or small arms, or ammo, or trucks, or HIMARS, or tanks. The experience to me was a little disappointing at that time because there were a lot of things where I don't know if we really pushed ourselves hard enough to say, okay, well, I could live with that if you could live with that, and we could save ourselves X amount of money. So that's the intent of the Army Marine Corps Board, is to come up with common requirements, like communications, radios. But it sounds easy, but it's not. I mean, we have different requirements because we come from the sea. They have a different view, and so we have to kind of work hard, but think about anything, and you would think that the Army and the Marine Corps, as far as land type things, we would have a lot of common things. We don't have as much as we should, and I believe it costs us money. Us, collectively, costs us money. So we're working on that. As far as doctrine, we have not just the Army Marine Corps Board for acquisition and requirements, we have it for doctrine, and General Walsh, working with General Perkins down at TRADOC, we have written a combined Army Marine Corps document about land warfare, dominance in land warfare, and we're reviewing that, and it's out for chop because we have a piece in that. We have a piece in that. So will we get 100 over 100 on everything we want to do? No. That's what it would be ideal because, you know, but I would just tell Marines in here, hey, we need to be a little more open. I mean, if it's good enough and it meets our requirement and we can collaborate with the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, Homeland Security, I don't really care. And it can save us money so we can go get something else or buy more. I would think that would be something we would want to consider. So to your point, we're working with them. We had a Navy Marine Corps board yesterday. There's always antibodies out there on both sides, but you know, the other day I testified with the other service chiefs, and somebody came up. I sat next to General Goldfein on this side, and Admiral Richardson on the other, and General Milley. I mean, I serve with all these guys all over the world. I mean, they go, you guys really seem like you like each other. Yeah, I know their families. They're really good guys. I mean, do we always agree? No, but it does help. You know, I go, hey, I don't agree with that. I mean, and they come to me, hey, what about this? I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Now that doesn't mean the staffs aren't, you know, knife fighting each other in the hallways of the Pentagon. I'm not that naive because I used to be in that knife fight. So I want to have just fist fights, not knife fights. Anybody else? One last question, and then I'll let you go. Yes, sir. You're moving pretty good there, Sergeant Major Hool.
Not bad for
an old guy with bad feet.
Morning, Sergeant Major Peckham. With your discussion and points earlier on capabilities provided by additive manufacturing and purchase of COTS and tech refresh, how is that going to play into POM cycle and also the equipment and tech refresh the Marines across the force are down in their units?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as far as additive manufacturing and stuff that we want to buy commercial off the shelf that, you know, we've got certain flexibility and you know, the Senate Armed Services Committee is, you know, on our case about going faster in the acquisition process and the rules. And I'll be the first one to tell you I'm learning a lot about that. That sadly happened. General Schrader down here has to listen to all my inane questions about why do we have to do this? Why do we have to test this thing this many hours? And we know it works, just go buy the darn thing. Or if there's something we see, like we just bought some vehicles that were above threshold reprogramming and we got permission and we bought them because SOCOM had a contract, and so we went and bought them. I mean, that's public, I can say that, right? Where's my lawyer? But we did. And so, you know, it didn't meet all of our requirements, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff out here, and that's part of what 3.5 is doing is, you know, we've got, some of the stuff costs more money. It may have to be a program of record, because if you don't make it a program of record, there's no sustainment, you got no parts, and then you end up with, you know, these things in the Marine Corps, you know, interim. There's no such thing as interim in the Marine Corps, because once you got it, you know, you got it. It's like, you know, like mules and gamma goats and all wonderful devices. But a lot of this stuff looks like some of these things look like refurbished gamma goats and mules to help us carry our stuff. So our goal, and that's what I need you guys to do, is like, hey, I saw this. What do you about this? You know, General Dana went out with an innovation challenge, and they got people come up with all these ideas. We've already determined who the winners are. General Walsh has got that now through the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab. Colonel Armelino's doing it. There's a web page. General Alfred's his guys. So hey, you know, we could get slammed and overwhelmed, and you know, you could do a denial service attack on Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, but somebody at the end of the day have to get through, go parse through that stuff, because you know, do you guys really want to know what we think? Yeah, I do. I want to know what you think. And because we all want the same thing. We want to get better, and if we have to go fight, we got to win. We got to win. Nobody's going to say, hey, great job, we're getting that silver medal. No. So I got to get you to buy in, and then you got to get them to buy in, and if everybody buys in, Dan O'Brien and I go play golf. And it'll all be good, because they'll be all fired up. So are we gonna meet everybody's expectation and go as fast as we want to go? No. Because there are rules out there and things we have to do. But, you know, if you ask the generals up here, the one thing, you know, they send me updates and, you know, and tell me what's going on. Like Monday we had the infantry challenge, and General Schrader had, because, you know, we need to be the best infantry in the world. Now, the Army Rangers might take exception to that, but okay, they're great, but so we want to be better. There's nothing wrong with that. Whether we will or not will be determined on the battlefield. But every Marine's a rifleman. Not every Marine is in the infantry. It's different. And I don't mean that, it's not disrespectful. It's like, hey, if you're a tanker, I want you to have the best tank we can buy. If you're an Amtracker, you're a truck driver, you're flying an airplane model type series, I want to give you the best, because so you can go out there and be effective on the battlefield and come home. So we want the ideas, we want the pressure, and then it's up to us to cycle through it. But at some point, you know, I mean, somebody's going to say, okay, that's enough. They're right there on that hill. Go kill them. Yes, Lieutenant. Yes, Staff Sergeant. And that's what we do. And we have to be able to facilitate that. So if there's a way to go around the hill or a way to advantage that, that's you know, we don't want a fair fight. But the additive manufacturing thing, I think, it's not for those older people in here. I mean, this is not some. I'm sure somewhere in here there's people that are exhibiting this capability, and it's like anything else, like Moore's law. Every 18 to 24 months, it doubles in its capability, faster and faster. And many of the vendors here, if you ask them, Marines, hey, do you make any of this stuff on 3D printers? Oh yeah, we make a lot of this stuff. And then your first thought is, well, why can't I just buy my own 3D printer and make this? And then I don't have to pay them. But they own the data. It's like a copyright. So I mean, we'll figure that out. Did I answer your question? Okay, I'm going to turn this over to General Walsh. I went longer than I thought. I've got to get back up to the Emerald City. And hope to see everybody tonight at the banquet. We'll recognize some more great supporters of the Marine Corps and the Marine Corps League and have a good time. I'm supposed to talk again more about what's going on in the Marine Corps today. We'll show a little video, little hoorah video, everybody fired up about all the Marines out there doing great stuff, and they are doing great stuff. So thanks very much. I'll turn it over to General Walsh, or General Regner.
Okay, we'll just let the Commandant get out.
You just heard from the Commandant, General Neller, talk about the future of the force and how we can continue to fight and win in the 21st century. Here with me, I have two Marines walking around the expo, and we're going to hear what they have to say. What's your name?
I'm Lance Corporal Adam Sweckard. Lance Corporal Justin von Sprecken.
And where are you guys from?
We're stationed at Marine Barracks, Washington, D.C. That's it.
About Expo.
I think it's a public idea what the Marine Corps is going to evolve into. It definitely has a lot of weapons and stuff, and a lot of free stuff, so it's definitely something to come out to.
What have you guys gotten so far?
Got a lot of information on some of the new gear, some of the new vehicles that the Marine Corps may be getting down the road. Also some free handouts, stickers, lanyards, that sort of thing.
What's your favorite so far?
It would have to be the LAVs. I really like those.
Well, thank you. Have fun the rest of your expo. Thank you. Here with me today, I have Mark Richter, the Program Manager for the Marine Expeditionary Rifle Squad, and he's going to talk about Marine Corps Systems Command. Sir?
So here today, as part of our Marine Corps Systems Command display, we're running a infantry integration workshop with industry. Basically what we're doing is giving the industry partners that are here the opportunity to take their item in and see how it works with a complete ensemble of Marine Corps equipment. So we have a rifleman set of equipment and some of the other equipment, and we'll sit down with them over an hour time frame and look at how their unique item actually will integrate in with all the Marines equipment. Does it replace something? Is it lighter than something that we've already gotten? Does it add a new technology or innovation to the Marines kit? So we've had quite a diversity of equipment. We've had weapon systems in here, new clothing equipment. We've had a new fuel source to replace the MRE heater is in there right now. And so it really gives industry something to look at, an exchange of ideas from us to them and them to us, give them items of locations where a Marine could carry this, how it would fit on his body armor, that sort of thing. So I think they're getting a lot out of it. The response has been very good, and we've used up every blank space during the entire expo is being filled by vendors.
That sounds great, sir. How is your position in this expo and other vendors here?
So what we want to do is be very interactive with the industry partners. So this is a hands-on event. It's behind the curtains, so the vendors can tell us exactly what it is their piece of gear does. If there's any proprietary information, they let us know. But it's very hands-on, one-on-one. We bring all of our equipment from our Gruntwork Squad Integration Facility, all the tools that we need to do this, and it's a team of engineers and infantry SMEs and requirements people to really look at how can we optimize that vendor's small piece of gear, whether he's a large vendor or a small business.
Sir, what do you think is the most promising piece of gear for the Marine Corps?
There's a lot of them that are out here. There's a lot of new lightweight ammunition is one we just finished up here just shortly. So it could reduce, for a machine gunner, reduce his 600 rounds of 7.62 linked ammo by about 6 pounds. So there's a lot of different varieties of great technologies that are out there, and we're keeping our eyes open and see how we can leverage that.
Do you recommend people to come to this event, sir?
Oh, absolutely. It's a great opportunity, one place over a 3-day period to virtually see anything that's out there, new technologies, new innovative solutions, and see it all in one place.
Thank you for your time, sir. You heard it from him yourself. This is a 3-day event. We have it going today and tomorrow as well, and over thousands of people come and attend this event and see all of the promising pieces of gear here. If you haven't come, you should totally come and check it out, and if not, you can check out their website, marinemilitary.expos.com. Sorry about that. We're going to go check out the most promising piece of gear, in my opinion, which is the M-Razor. So follow me. Good morning, ma'am. Can I get in the M-Razor? Hey, can you tell us a little bit about this piece of gear?
This vehicle is the Polaris M-Razor. It is the Marine Corps' utility task vehicle. It is a logistics vehicle for the Marine Corps. We will be starting to field this vehicle to infantry regiments in January.
How fast do these go?
The vehicle is capable of going up to 60 miles an hour.
And how will that help the Marine Corps?
The vehicle is internally transportable logistics vehicle, and it will be internally transportable in the Osprey and the CH-53 helicopter as well.
Well, we're really excited to see these in action in January, so thank you for your time. Okay. So the expo has over 500 vendors, and there's incredible pieces of gear. There's tents that take up an entire parade field. These vehicles have a lot of upgrades, and it's really great to see. So here, take a look around. Take a look around. So if you're just tuning in, I'm Lance Corporal Molly Hampton, and we're here at the Modern Day Marine Expo. This event has over 500 vendors that showcase new gear for the Marine Corps that you'll probably be seeing very soon. We're going to an amphibious assault vehicle. We're going to check it out. Here we go. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Can you tell the Marines who are watching who you are and what your position here is in the Expo?
My name is Colonel Wendell Einbach. I'm the Deputy Program Manager for PMAAA, so responsible for the amphibious vehicles in the Marine Corps, to include the AAV current fleet and the upgrade that you see here in front of you, as well as the next generation ACV 1.1.
So how is this vehicle different than other vehicles right now in the Marine Corps?
So this is an upgrade to the current AAV, and it is a survivability upgrade. So it's got increased armor in the belly and then also on the sides, and that's resulted in increased weight to the vehicle that will give it extra survivability against IEDs and blasts from the sides. However, the extra weight requires us to put an improved drivetrain, so new engine, new transmission, new water jets, so that the vehicle maintains the mobility in the land, on land and in the water of the current AAV Ram RS.
So when will the Marine Corps potentially be seeing these vehicles in action?
So they're being built now as prototypes, and we're going to be going through what we call EMD testing to prove out that they work as we expect them to, and we begin fielding in 2 or 3 years from now.
Thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it. I'm Lance Corporal Molly Hampton, and you tuned in to the Modern Day Marine Expo. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.